I wasn't expecting anything to happen that day. Honestly, I barely even wanted to be there. It was one of those hot, lazy afternoons where the sun feels heavier than usual, like it's pressing you into the sand. I dragged myself to the beach mostly out of boredom, tossed the towel down, and decided I was going to do absolutely nothing for a few hours. No phone, no thinking, no overanalyzing my life, just laying there and letting the heat quiet everything in my head. That lasted maybe 20 minutes. Because out of nowhere, something wet slammed into my side. I jerked up so fast I nearly headbutted whatever it was, heart jumping into my throat. For a split second, I thought it was a kid or someone tripping, but then I saw fur. Golden, sandy fur. And a dog. A big one. Whoa, hey, what the hell? The dog was already circling me like we were best friends reunited after years apart, tail wagging aggressively, sand flying everywhere. Before I could even process it, he shoved his nose right into my chest and then licked my face. Dude, no, get off! I laughed despite myself, trying to push him away, but he just leaned harder into me like I weighed nothing. That's when I heard a voice. Benson! Hey, Benson, come back here! I froze for a second. Not because of the shouting, but because of the name. Benson. The dog paused too, like he knew he was in trouble, but instead of running back, he just sat down right next to me, like he had chosen me. And then I saw him. Running toward us across the sand, slightly out of breath, shirt half unbuttoned, hair messy from the wind, he looked like the kind of guy you notice without trying. Not in a dramatic way. Just, naturally. Like he belonged there. Sorry, he usually doesn't just. He stopped a few feet away, hands on his hips, catching his breath. Launch himself at strangers. I glanced at the dog, then back at him. Yeah, well, he's got a strong personality. That made him laugh, quick and easy. That's one way to put it. For a second, either of us moved. The dog, Benson, was still pressed against my side, completely ignoring his owner now, like his job here was done. I think he likes you, the guy said. I think he's decided I live here now, I replied. That earned me another smile, and I swear there was something about the way he looked at me right then, just a little longer than necessary, that made my chest feel weird. Not bad. Just noticeable. I'm Andre, by the way, he said, stepping a little closer. Of course he was. Figures, I muttered without thinking. He raised an eyebrow, amused. What's that supposed to mean? I shook my head, sitting up a bit straighter. Nothing, it just fits. Good fit or bad fit? I smirked. I'll let you know. He laughed again, softer this time, and finally crouched down next to Benson, grabbing lightly onto his collar, but the dog didn't budge. Come on, man, Andre said, tugging gently. You're harassing people. I think he's made his choice, I said. You might have to leave without him. Andre glanced at me, then at Benson, then back at me. You offering to keep him? Depends. Is he always like this? Worse, Andre said instantly. I huffed a laugh, shaking my head. Yeah. I don't think I'm ready for that kind of commitment. There was a pause after that. Not awkward. Just quiet in a way that made everything else fade out a little. The waves, the distant voices, even the heat. Andre stood up slowly, brushing sand off his hands. Well, sorry again. He usually listens better than this. It's fine, I said. Honestly, it's the most exciting thing that's happened to me all day. Yeah? He asked, tilting his head slightly. Yeah. I was about 5 minutes away from falling asleep and getting roasted alive. He glanced at my towel, my half-forgotten water bottle, then back at me. Mind if I sit for a second? Just until he decides to cooperate? I hesitated. Not because I wanted to say no, but because I didn't. Sure, I said finally. Looks like he's not going anywhere anyway. Andre sat down beside me, not too close, but not distant either. Close enough that I could feel the heat coming off his skin, mixing with the sun. For a moment, neither of us said anything. And weirdly, it didn't feel forced. It felt like something just starting. The thing is, I didn't know it yet, but that stupid moment, me laying there, Benson tackling me out of nowhere, Andre showing up like it was nothing. That was the exact second everything started shifting. I just thought it was a random beach encounter. It wasn't. Not even close. I don't know what it was exactly, but sitting there next to Andre felt easy. Like we'd skipped past the awkward part where strangers figure each other out. Benson was still glued to my side, occasionally nudging my arm with his nose like he needed constant reassurance I was still there. Andre had given up trying to pull him away and just leaned back on his hands, stretching his legs out in the sand. "So," he said after a minute, glancing at me, "do you come here a lot, or did Benson just get lucky today?" I snorted. "Definitely luck. I almost didn't even come." "Yeah? Why not?" I shrugged, digging my fingers absently into the sand. "Just one of those days. Didn't feel like doing anything." Andre nodded like he actually understood that. "Those are usually the days you need the beach the most." I glanced at him. "You sound like you've got that figured out." He smiled a little, not cocky, just honest. "I come here a lot. Benson kind of forces me to." "Ah, so he's the real decision maker." "Always," Andre said, reaching over to scratch behind Benson's ears. "I just follow instructions." For a second, I watched his hand move through the dog's fur, and then I realized I was staring. Not at the dog. At him. I looked away quickly, clearing my throat. "That's a pretty solid system, not gonna lie." "Yeah," he said, a little quieter now. "It works." Another pause settled between us, but again, it didn't feel uncomfortable. If anything, it felt heavier this time. Like there was something building underneath the surface, neither of us quite touching it yet. "So what about you?" he asked. "You live around here?" "Yeah, not too far. Just needed to get out of my apartment for a bit." He nodded slowly. "Same." I raised an eyebrow. "You just said you come here all the time." "Yeah," he admitted, glancing out at the water. "Doesn't mean I don't also need to get out of my place." There was something in the way he said it, subtle, but real. Like there was more behind it, but he wasn't ready to get into it yet. I didn't push. Instead, I leaned back on my elbows, letting the sun hit my face again. "Fair enough." Benson shifted, laying his head right on my stomach now like we'd known each other for years. I laughed under my breath. "He's really committing to this, huh?" Andre looked over, shaking his head. "I've never seen him do this before." "Seriously?" "Yeah," he said, studying the two of us like he was trying to figure it out. "Usually he's running around like an idiot, not attaching himself to someone." I smirked. "Guess I'm special." Andre's eyes flicked to mine, and this time he didn't look away right away. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Maybe you are." That hit a little harder than it should have. I felt it in my chest again, that same weird, tight warmth from earlier, but stronger now. More obvious. So I did what I always do when something starts feeling a little too real. I deflected. "Or maybe he just has terrible judgment," I said, nudging Benson lightly. Andre huffed a laugh, but I caught it, that tiny pause before it. Like he noticed what I did and chose not to call it out. We sat there a little longer, talking about random stuff, work, dumb beach stories, the worst sunburns we'd ever had. Nothing serious. But the way he listened, it made everything feel a little more important than it actually was. At some point, I realized I wasn't thinking about leaving anymore. Which was weird. Because earlier, I couldn't wait for the day to be over. Now I was hoping it would slow down. "You hungry?" Andre asked suddenly. I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, kinda. There's this place a couple minutes from here," he said. "Nothing fancy, just good food. I was gonna head there anyway before this idiot tackled you." Benson thumped his tail against me like he was proud of himself. Andre nodded toward him. "See? Even he thinks it's a good idea." I hesitated for half a second. Again, not because I didn't want to go, but because I did. And that felt fast. Too easy. But then I looked at him. And yeah, I already knew I was going to say yes. All right, I said, sitting up. Yeah, I'm in. Andre smiled, not big, not over the top. Just real. Cool, he said, standing up and finally managing to get Benson to move. I promise he won't attack you again. No guarantees, I said, brushing sand off myself. As we started walking side by side, Benson trotting happily between us, I couldn't shake this feeling in the back of my mind. Like this wasn't random. Like this wasn't just some beach day that would fade out and be forgotten. And the weirdest part? I wasn't trying to ignore it anymore. I just didn't realize yet how much that one, yeah, I'm in, was about to change things. The place Andre took me to wasn't anything special at first glance. Just a small beachside spot, half open, with wooden tables and the kind of faded menu board that looked like it hadn't changed in years. But it smelled good, like grilled food and salt air, and it was close enough to the water that you could still hear the waves under the chatter of people. Best fries you'll ever have, Andre said as we walked up. That's a bold claim. You'll see. Benson, apparently a regular, walked in like he owned the place. One of the guys behind the counter immediately leaned over. Hey! There he is, he said, pointing. And who'd you drag in this time? Andre rolled his eyes. Relax. He's not a victim. Debatable, I muttered. Andre smirked at that, glancing at me like he liked the answer more than he should have. We ordered. He insisted I try the fries, obviously, and grabbed a table outside. Benson immediately flopped down under it, like his job was done for the day. For a minute, things were quiet again. Not awkward. Just settling. I realized something as I sat across from him. I was looking at him the same way I had on the beach. And this time, I didn't look away right away. Up close, it was even worse. Or better. Depends how you look at it. There was something about him that didn't feel forced. No trying too hard, no fake confidence. Just solid. Comfortable in a way that made you lower your guard without noticing. You're staring, he said, casually taking a sip of his drink. I blinked. I'm not. He raised an eyebrow. Okay, maybe a little, I admitted. Any particular reason? I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. Just trying to figure you out. Oh yeah? He said, a small smile pulling at the corner of his mouth. And how's that going? Still undecided. That bad, huh? Not bad, I said before I could stop myself. Just unexpected. That made him pause. Not in a bad way, more like he actually took that in. Unexpected how? He asked, quieter now. I hesitated. Because I could have brushed it off again. Made a joke. Kept things light. But something about the way he was looking at me made that harder than usual. You don't feel like a random person I just met today, I said. There it was. Out in the open. Andre didn't answer right away. He just held my gaze for a second longer than normal, like he was deciding what to do with that. Yeah, he said finally. I was kinda thinking the same thing. And just like that, the air between us shifted again. It wasn't just casual anymore. There was something else there now. Something we both noticed. The food came, breaking the moment, but not really ending it. We started eating, talking again, but it felt different now. Slower. More intentional. At some point, Andre reached across the table to grab a napkin, and his fingers brushed mine. It was quick. Barely anything. But neither of us pulled away immediately. It lasted maybe a second longer than it should have. Then he moved his hand back like nothing happened. Careful, I said, trying to sound casual. Your dog's already attached to me. Don't make it worse. Andre smirked, but there was something behind it now. Yeah, wouldn't want that. But he didn't sound like he meant it. We kept talking after that. But I was hyper-aware now. Every glance, every small shift in his expression, it all felt louder. And the worst part? I wasn't imagining it. He was doing the same thing. Watching me. Not constantly, but enough. Like he was just as aware of this, whatever it was. By the time we finished eating, the sun had started dipping lower, the light turning softer, warmer. Neither of us made a move to leave right away. Benson was asleep under the table. Andre leaned back in his chair, looking out toward the water. I should probably head out soon, he said. Yeah, I replied. But I didn't stand up. Neither did he. You could come with me, he said. I looked at him. Where? Just a walk, he shrugged. There's a quieter stretch down the beach. Less people. My heart did that thing again. That subtle, annoying thump that I couldn't ignore anymore. This wasn't just random. Not anymore. Yeah, I said. Again. And I knew, this time even more than before, that I wasn't just saying yes to a walk. I was stepping into something I didn't fully understand yet. And honestly, I didn't want to stop it. We didn't say much as we left the little food spot. Andre just gave a quick nod to the guy at the counter. Benson stretched like he just completed a full work shift, and then the three of us were back on the sand again. But it felt different now. Before it was just a random meeting. Now there was something underneath it. Something quieter but heavier. The beach had started to empty out, the loud groups fading, the energy settling into something softer. The sky was shifting into that late afternoon gold, the kind that makes everything look a little more unreal than it actually is. Andre led the way, hands in his pockets, Benson trotting ahead this time instead of glued to me. Not too crowded down here, he said, glancing back at me. Yeah. I like it, I replied. And I meant it. Not just the place. The whole situation. We walked for a bit, just side by side, our shoulders brushing every now and then, not enough to be obvious, but enough that neither of us adjusted. At some point, Benson ran ahead toward the water, chasing nothing in particular. Which left just us. And silence. Not the easy kind from before. This one felt charged. Andre slowed down slightly, and I matched his pace without thinking. You're quiet, he said. So are you. Fair. I kicked up the sand lightly. Just thinking. About? I exhaled, half a laugh. This whole thing, I guess. He glanced at me. The dog attack? Yeah, that. I smirked. Very traumatic. He smiled, but it faded quicker this time. You mean us? There it was again. That directness. I nodded a little. Yeah. He didn't respond right away. We kept walking, slower now, until he finally stopped. I took another step before realizing he wasn't beside me anymore. When I turned back, he was just standing there, watching me. Not casually. Not lightly. Just looking. I felt it instantly. That shift. What? I asked, trying to keep it normal. Andre shook his head slightly, like he was debating something. I don't usually do this. I frowned. Do what? This, he said, gesturing vaguely between us. Talk to someone I just met like it's more than that. I let out a quiet breath. Yeah, same. That seemed to land. He stepped a little closer, not enough to invade my space, but enough that I noticed it immediately. Feels kinda crazy, right? He said. A little, I admitted. Neither of us moved after that. The distance between us wasn't big. But it felt like something. Like a line. And we both knew it. Benson barked somewhere in the distance, completely oblivious. Andre's eyes flicked down to my mouth for a split second. Then back up. That was it. That was the moment everything got a lot harder to ignore. You ever get that feeling? He said quietly. Like something's about to happen, and you don't know if you should stop it or just let it? My chest tightened slightly. Yeah, I said. Right now, actually. He huffed a soft laugh, but it didn't break the tension. If anything, it made it worse. Because now we both said it. Out loud. The air felt heavier. Closer. I could feel my heartbeat, not fast, just present. Like my body was paying attention in a way it hadn't all day. Andre took one more small step forward. Now we were close. Close enough that I could see the tiny details in his face. The way his expression wasn't confident anymore, not fully. There was hesitation there. Real hesitation. And for some reason, that made it harder to step back. "You can say no," he said quietly. I swallowed. Because the thing was, I didn't want to. Not even a little. So instead I shook my head. And that was all it took. Andre closed the distance. Slowly. Like he was giving me every chance to change my mind. I didn't. When he kissed me, it wasn't rushed or aggressive. It was careful. Testing. Like he was just as unsure as I was, but still choosing to do it anyway. And for a second, my brain just stopped. All the overthinking, all the hesitation, it just dropped out. Because it felt right. Simple as that. My hand came up without me even realizing it, gripping lightly onto his shirt. And that's when it shifted. From careful to something a little more real. A little less hesitant. Benson barked again somewhere behind us, snapping the moment just enough for us to pull back. Not far. Just enough to breathe. Andre let out a quiet exhale, his forehead almost touching mine. "Okay, yeah?" I laughed under my breath, still a little dazed. "Yeah." We stood there like that for a second longer than necessary. Neither of us stepping away. Neither of us pretending that didn't just happen. Because it did. And there was no going back to. Random beach encounter. After that. Not even close. What I didn't realize yet. That kiss was the easy part. What came after? That's where things got complicated. We didn't talk about the kiss right away. Which, looking back, was probably the first sign things weren't as simple as they felt in that moment. Instead, we just kept walking. Like nothing had changed. Except everything had. Benson came running back toward us, completely soaked, sand sticking to his legs, tail wagging like he just discovered water for the first time in his life. "Of course," Andre muttered, stepping back slightly as Benson shook himself off, right onto both of us. I laughed, wiping my arm. "Yeah, this feels more normal." "Glad something does," he said under his breath. I caught that. And for a second, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to. We kept moving after that, slower now, the space between us slightly different. Not distant, but more aware. Like we both knew we'd crossed something. And neither of us knew what came next. After a minute, I glanced at him. "So, do you always kiss random guys your dog attacks?" There it was. I said it lightly, but it wasn't just a joke. Andre huffed a quiet laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "No. That's a first." "Good," I said. "Wouldn't want to feel unoriginal." He smiled at that, but it didn't fully reach his eyes this time. "Yeah," he said. "You're not that." That pause again. I slowed my steps slightly. "Hey." He looked at me. "You good?" For a second, it looked like he was going to brush it off. But then he exhaled, shaking his head a little. "Yeah. I just wasn't planning on today going like this." "Same," I admitted. He glanced out at the water again, jaw tightening just slightly. "I don't usually." He stopped himself. I raised an eyebrow. "Don't usually what?" Another pause. Then, quieter. "I don't usually do anything with guys." That landed. Not like a shock, but like something clicking into place. I studied him for a second, trying to read past the surface. "But you just did." "Yeah," he said, almost like he was still processing it himself. We stopped walking again. Benson circled us once before dropping into the sand, finally tired. I crossed my arms loosely, not defensive, just grounding myself. "So what does that mean?" Andre let out a breath, looking straight at me now. "I don't know." At least he was honest. I'm not gonna pretend that didn't feel real, he added. Because it did. My chest tightened slightly at that. But? I asked. He hesitated. And there it was. The part one was waiting for. But I've always been with girls, he said. Always. I nodded slowly. Okay. I'm not saying this was a mistake, he added quickly. I'm just saying. I didn't expect it. Yeah, I said, quieter now. I didn't either. Silence settled between us again. But this time, it wasn't the same. This one had weight. Reality creeping in. Andre ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, but not at me. More at himself. You're easy to talk to. Being around you feels different. I let out a small breath. That's usually how it starts. He gave me a look at that. You sound like you've been here before. Not exactly like this, I said. But yeah. I know what it feels like when something's about to get complicated. That hung in the air. Because we both knew. It already was. Benson shifted again, pressing against my leg like earlier, completely unaware of the tension building above him. Andre noticed that, a faint smile breaking through. He still likes you more than me. I glanced down, scratching behind Benson's ears. Yeah. I get that a lot. Andre laughed softly, but then his expression settled again. More serious now. Can I ask you something? He said. Yeah. If I hadn't said anything, if I just acted like that didn't happen, what would you have done? I didn't answer right away. Because I knew the truth. I would have noticed, I said finally. And I probably would have walked away. That seemed to hit him. Yeah, he muttered. That makes sense. I looked at him for a second longer. I'm not really into being someone's experiment, you know? I know, he said quickly. And I'm not trying to make you feel like that. But you don't know what this is yet, I said. He didn't argue. Because he couldn't. I don't want to mess this up, he said. I let out a quiet breath. You kinda already did. He winced slightly. Not dramatic, just real. Not because of the kiss, I added. Because now it matters. That was the part he couldn't ignore anymore. He nodded slowly, looking down for a second before meeting my eyes again. I still want to see you, he said. Simple. Direct. Complicated as hell. I studied him, trying to figure out if that was enough. If he even knew what he was asking for. Yeah, I said finally. I think I want that too. And just like that. We didn't fix anything. We didn't define anything. But we chose not to walk away. Which, honestly, might have been the riskier decision. Because feelings are easy at the start. It's everything after. That tests whether they actually mean something. The next few days felt off. Not in a bad way. Just different. Andre and I exchanged numbers before we left the beach that night, but after everything that happened, I wasn't sure what to expect. Part of me thought maybe it would fade out, one of those intense, in-the-moment things that doesn't survive outside of it. But it didn't. He texted me that same night. Andre, did you get home okay? Or did Benson kidnap you? I stared at the message longer than I should have. Then smiled. Me, he tried. I barely escaped. His reply came fast. Andre, damn. He's gonna be disappointed. Simple. Easy. But there was something underneath it again. We kept texting after that, nothing too heavy at first. Just normal stuff. Random jokes, quick check-ins, little pieces of our day. But every once in a while, there'd be a pause. Like we both remembered what happened. And didn't quite know how to bring it up again. 3 days later, he asked to see me. Not in a vague way. Not, we should hang out sometime. It was direct. Andre, you free tonight? I was. I just didn't answer right away. Because this time, it wasn't just a random yes on a beach. This felt like a decision. I ended up replying anyway. Me, yeah? What's the plan? Andre, walk again? No dog attack this time. Probably. I smirked at my phone. Me, no promises. When I got there, he was already waiting. Same spot. Like we both just agreed that's where this started. Benson was there too, obviously, this time on a leash, like Andre didn't fully trust him not to repeat history. Hey, Andre said when he saw me. Hey. There was a brief pause. Not awkward, but not as effortless as the first time. Because now we both knew what was between us. And we were deciding what to do with it. Benson immediately broke the tension, pulling toward me like nothing had changed. Unbelievable, Andre muttered, letting go of the leash slightly. I crouched down, smiling as Benson practically crashed into me again. Miss me? He definitely did, Andre said. I stood back up, brushing sand off my hands. What about you? The question slipped out before I could filter it. Andre didn't hesitate this time. Yeah, he said. That landed. Harder than expected. We started walking again, slower than before. More aware. So, I said after a minute. You figure anything out? He exhaled lightly. About? You know, everything. He glanced at me. Not really. Honest, I said. Always, he replied. I nodded. Respect that. We walked a few more steps before he added. I do know I couldn't stop thinking about you. I looked at him. He didn't look away. And that's new for me, he said. I let out a quiet breath. Yeah, same. That familiar tension started creeping back in. Not uncomfortable. Just real. But I also don't want to mess with your head, he continued. If I'm still figuring my own out. There it was. The line again. Clearer this time. I appreciated that he said it. Didn't make it easier though. I'm not asking you to have it all figured out, I said. I just need to know I'm not wasting my time. I don't think you are, he said. Think? I raised an eyebrow. He huffed a small laugh. Okay, bad wording. Very. I don't want you to be, he corrected. Better. Still complicated. We stopped walking again, like we kept naturally doing. Like this conversation required stillness. Andre stepped a little closer. Not as hesitant this time. I meant what I said, he added. About wanting to see you. I searched his face for a second. He wasn't faking it. That much was obvious. But he also wasn't certain. And that was the problem. You're gonna have to meet me halfway, I said quietly. I know. And that might mean figuring things out faster than you're used to. He nodded slowly. Yeah. A small pause. Then, I'm trying, he said. That was the most honest thing he'd said so far. And somehow, that mattered more than certainty. I stepped a little closer too. Now we were back in that space again. That same distance from the beach. Only this time, it wasn't new. It was chosen. Okay, I said. His eyes flicked to my lips again. Less hesitant now. More familiar. Okay? He repeated. Yeah, I said quietly. And when he kissed me this time, it wasn't careful anymore. It wasn't testing. It felt like something we'd already started. And we're continuing. My hand caught his shirt again, pulling him slightly closer without thinking. He responded instantly. Like he'd been holding that back. Benson barked again, louder this time. We both pulled back, laughing under our breath. Worst timing, Andre muttered. Or best, I said. Keeps us from making worse decisions. He looked at me, a small smirk forming. You think this is a bad decision? I held his gaze. I think it's not a simple one. That wiped the smirk, just slightly. Yeah, he said. That sounds about right. And standing there, with him looking at me like that, I realized something. This wasn't just about attraction anymore. It wasn't just curiosity. We were already past that. This was turning into something real. And real things? They don't stay easy for long. Things didn't fall apart right away. Which, honestly, almost made it worse. Because for a little while, it felt like we were figuring it out. Over the next couple of weeks, Andre and I kept seeing each other. Nothing official. Nothing labeled. Just consistent. Walks turned into longer nights. Longer nights turned into sitting in his car talking about random stuff until way too late. Benson became a constant, like he was part of whatever this was from the start. And the physical side of it? Yeah, that didn't go away. If anything, it got easier. Less hesitation. Less thinking. More instinct. But the conversations? Those didn't get easier. Not the ones that mattered. One night, we were back at his place. First time I'd been there. Nothing fancy, just a normal apartment, a little messy, clearly lived in. Benson was passed out on the floor, completely knocked out after a long walk. Andre was sitting next to me on the couch, closer than usual. Quiet. Too quiet. I could feel it before he even said anything. You ever feel like you're two different people? He asked. I leaned back slightly, glancing at him. That's a very specific question. He let out a small breath. I mean it. I studied him for a second. Yeah, I said. Sometimes. He nodded, like that confirmed something for him. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted. There it was. Finally. Not vague. Not careful. Just real. With me? I asked. With everything, he said. What it means. I stayed quiet. Let him talk. I like being with you, he continued. That part's not confusing. Then what is? I asked. He hesitated. Then said it. I've never seen myself like this. I nodded slowly. I figured. He looked at me, searching my face. And that doesn't freak you out? It doesn't matter if it freaks me out, I said. It matters if you run from it. That hit. I could see it. Because that was exactly what he'd been thinking. I don't want to run, he said. But? I pushed. He exhaled sharply, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. But I don't know if I'm ready to fully accept it either. There it was. The line. Clearer than ever. I sat there for a second, letting that settle. Because this was the moment everything either worked or didn't. I'm not something you halfway figure out, I said finally. My voice wasn't harsh. Just steady. I know, he said quickly. Do you? I asked. Because that's what this feels like sometimes. He turned to me, frustration creeping in. I'm trying, okay? I see that, I said. But trying and choosing aren't the same thing. That shut him up. Not in a bad way. Just real. Benson shifted slightly on the floor, the only sound in the room for a second. Andre rubbed his face, clearly torn. So what are you saying? I looked at him. Really looked. I'm saying I like you, I said. But I'm not going to sit here while you decide if I fit into your life. Silence. Heavy. Necessary. Andre, I added softer now. You don't have to have everything figured out. But you do have to know if you want this enough to stop treating it like a question. He didn't answer right away. And that told me everything. Because if he knew, he wouldn't need time. I stood up. Not dramatic. Just done waiting in that moment. He looked up at me immediately. You're leaving? Yeah. Just like that? I gave a small, almost tired smile. It was never just like that. He stood up too, stepping closer. I don't want this to end. Then don't let it be something you're unsure about, I said. I'm not unsure about you, he insisted. Then what are you unsure about? He opened his mouth. And stopped. Again. And that was it. That was the answer. I nodded slightly. Yeah, I said quietly. That's what I thought. I moved toward the door, grabbing my stuff. Benson lifted his head, watching me like he didn't understand why I was leaving this time. Honestly? Same. Andre followed me, stopping just a step behind. Are you really just gonna walk away? He asked. I paused at the door, then looked back at him. I'm not walking away from you, I said. I'm just not staying in something that doesn't know what it is. That landed hard. Because it was true. I left. And for the first time since that day on the beach, it felt quiet again. But here's the thing. That wasn't the end. Not really. 3 days later, I was back at the same beach. Same spot. Same routine. Except this time, I wasn't expecting anything. Not anymore. I was laying there, eyes closed, just letting the sun hit my face. When I heard it. Running. Fast. And before I could even react, something slammed into me again. Wet. Heavy. Familiar. I sat up instantly, already knowing. Benson, are you serious? Tail wagging. Sand everywhere. Exactly the same. Guess he made his choice again. I looked up. Andre. Standing there, slightly out of breath. But this time. Different. Not hesitant. Not unsure. Just clear. I stood up slowly. You train him to do this? He shook his head, a small smile forming. No. But I think he's smarter than me. Not a high bar, I muttered. He stepped closer. No distance this time. I figured it out, he said. I crossed my arms slightly. That was fast. It wasn't, he said. I just stopped overthinking it. I watched him carefully. Yeah? I said. Yeah, he nodded. I don't have a label for it. I don't have everything sorted. But I know I want you. That hit. Because this time, he didn't hesitate. And I'm not gonna treat that like something temporary, he added. I searched his face. No doubt. No pause. Just truth. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I said. He smiled, relief hitting him instantly. Okay? Yeah, I said, stepping closer. That's all I needed. And when he kissed me this time, there was no hesitation. No confusion. Just choice. Funny how it started with his dog running straight into me. Because somehow, that's exactly what Andre ended up doing too. No plan. No control. Just straight into something real.